Hello everyone, and welcome to another Easy Happy Hour session that is every Monday between 2 and 3 p.m. And today we are still in the topic series Easy Fundamentals Refresher. Maybe you're wondering why this series is too long, because we have been trying to cover what has been already covered in the happy hours earlier last year and also in the Easy webinar series. So those are like essential topics, at least to get you access to easy. So before we start today, I would like also to clarify that this session is being recorded. And at the end of the session, we stop the recording in case anyone would like to share anything related to easy, problems, issues, or something that has been covered earlier and needs some clarifications. Today's session is Easy Offline Portable CVMFS Repositories. Before we begin to cover what today's topic is, I would like to go through the highlights. So on the 25th of February, we have the second webinar session of the European Federated Platform, that is Federated Software Catalog, and there Easy will be presented. We have another event that is in Paphos, Cyprus, between 10 and 12th of March. That is the Euro HPC Summit 2026. The 11th Easy Build user meeting that is happening at the hometown of Deucalion, 21st till 23rd of April 2026. And the last in the list for today is the ISC 26 conference, 22nd till 26th of June at Hamburg. So in previous series, within the topic series, we covered the recommended access to Easy through the native CVMFS client installation. We also covered the Easy container script that gives us access to Easy within a container. Last session, we covered how we can use a CVMFS exec tool if there is no native CVMFS installation. And for today, we will be covering the CVMFS shrink-wrap utility. So for those who don't know or yet are new for the shrink-wrap utility, so CVMFS provides a utility called shrink-wrap, and this allows users to create a portable snapshot of a CVMFS repository, which then can be exported and distributed without the need of a CVMFS client or internet access. One of the biggest advantage in using shrink-wrap over simply rsynching a repository to a local directory is that shrink-wrap preserves the deduplication that CVMFS offers. So on a system where you already have access to Easy, you can use the shrink-wrap utility, even if you don't have an administrative user rights. So even without sudo, it's perfectly fine because that can be done through the user space, and all you need is access to Easy and the shrink-wrap utility. Maybe here I can give you more what is required. So in order to use the shrink-wrap utility that can be downloaded through the CVMFS web pages, first you need to create a file that is called a config file. Through that config file, as you can see, you will set those CVMFS repositories, repository name, and the configuration so that you can put this easy CVMFS configuration within the shrink-wrap utility tool and use it later on. The changes that you see down for the user ID and group ID are can be set, or even you can omit. It is best to set those to prevent any unexpected issues while you are executing the tool. Another file that you will need is the spec file. So what the spec file contains is what you need really to have or include within the shrink wrap. For EESSI, as you know, we have the compat layer, the important repositories in order to get access to EESSI are the compat layer and the software layer. And one of the important things in the compat layer also is the init and scripts, as you can see on the screen. So you can either have two spec files or a single spec file containing those information that are required. So first for example, as you can see on the screen, we're focusing on the x86-64, but it's just an example. You can use the R64 compat layer and the init scripts. The init and scripts are the same for different compat layers. And also, you will need to add for example, as you can see here, we're choosing on the screen the Intel Skylake. You need to add at least the L mode, module files, and the software. You can be more specific, and as you will see in the demo that I will run. So for example, you can choose only specific software instead of having the whole repository, or you can choose a specific software with its dependencies. So it's all based on your needs. You can be specific, as I mentioned. For example, you can just export the x86-64 Skylake. If you have different architectures, you can add the different architectures like Skylake, Haswell, or Cascade Lake, or even add two architectures, for example, x86-64 and the Arch. It's all based on your needs. So what you do first is you create the spec file and also the config file. And as you can see, you execute the CVMFS shrink wrap using the -r, which is software.easy.io that is specified in the configuration. And you point to the configuration file. And also you specify the spec file, which we mentioned. And then it starts creating this snapshot. It might take a time based on what you are trying to extract and the snapshot you're creating. And after you create the snapshot, you can simply use the make squashfs to create an image file. Once you create that image file, you can then use that image file either to mount it directly on any Linux system or Windows subsystem Linux and expose it to other systems, or you can use it within a container, as we will see, and then you will get access directly to EESSI within that container without any further need for the internet or streaming other packages from the internet. All this information that we've gone through is set within a pull request. If you need any further clarification or have a deeper look on what I'm explaining, it is the pull request 387 in the EESSI docs. For now, I will use my EESSI Happy Hour VM. And to begin with, maybe I have already explained earlier or showed this earlier, but it's interesting because I will do a trick today. So my CPU is LS CPU rep -I Haswell, just to show you that I'm using Intel Haswell CPU. And if I do ls/cvmfs, I will see that there is no CVMFS mounted. I just created a folder because I want then to mount the image which I have. So if I do ls-visa.squash, as you can see, I have software.easy.io zen2image.squash. So what I will do now is I will try to mount this. So if I try to mount this on the CVMFS, which I created, I will see now that if I do ls/cvmfs software.easy.io versions, just to go a bit deeper, I can see that I've created a squashfs file of EESSI 2023-06. If I want to see something more, something interesting that you will later on maybe see more about is if I go 2026 and software, Linux, Zen 2, software, you will see that I have a very limited number of software packages. And I've done that specifically because I only want to show you that if you want to run, for example, also micro benchmarks, you don't need to have the full repository. You only need to have the software you're looking for and definitely the dependencies. For now, I have shown you that I am running on a Haswell Intel Haswell CPU microprocessor, and but I have the SquashFS for the Zen 2. And the trick I will do today is I will show you that if you export the software subdirectory override, you can use whatever CPU microarchitecture you admire or you would like to use. But make sure that this might get you into like unexpected behavior or outcomes. But I like to show you this trick today so that because it is already covered in variables we use through EESSI or variables it's better for users to know in EESSI in previous EESSI happy hour sessions. Now that I've done this, I will use source slash CVMFS software versions init lmode and bash. And just to know what I have, what EESSI has detected, if I do ml, for example, module avail also, as you can see, it's trying to, or it is showing the available software that is best optimized for the Zen 2 architecture. And that is because I have exported the EESSI software subdirectory override and want to use the Zen 2 because the squashfs file I have is for Zen 2. Again, this is not recommended, but just for a test case and to show you that this variable could trick EESSI or give the option for you to use a different software directory from EESSI. And now if I do ml and try to load OSU micro benchmarks and simply try to run mpi run minus n2 OSU bandwidth, I can see that the software ran and I have results. This is all offline. I'm not using anything. I'm not streaming software. I'm just using the software that is available through my squashfs image I provided. So if I unmount, just to show you what I'm saying, so ls, and again, if I do ls slash cvmfs, there is nothing here. So again, this squashfs file that I provided, or you have, or you created, simply you can bind it to a container, but make sure that you have it under slash cvmfs because EESSI will always try to search for cvmfs because it's our path there, and you will get access to EESSI. So simply this squash file will give you this option. One of the drawbacks of this is that you need to continuously update this squashfs file because new packages that are pushed into EESSI or built to EESSI, you will not see them unless you keep updating this squashfs file. So this is what I like to show you today. And before giving you the chance to have any questions, I would like to say that in the next session, we will be covering have you met the EESSI command line interface? That is something new. This topic has not been covered earlier during previous EESSI Happy Hour sessions or webinars. So it will be very interesting to see the EESSI command line interface. Whoever has questions, feel free to share your questions, anything related to EESSI. And if you would like to stop
Laten
the
we even naar
recording.
kijken nadat jij klaar bent met.
Yeah. Yep. Would you like to have it while the recording or stop the recording first, Alan? Or it was by mistake?
It was a mistake, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
How big are the containers or the images you create?
For example, the one I have, maybe I can show you. I guess it's 8 gig. Yes, the one I have is 8 gig. So the software package with its dependencies, it's 8 gig.
That's all only software layer, or is it also compat layer?
No, this contains the software layer and the compat layer. So what I did is I had both in one image file.
Okay, because the compat layer, I guess, is something like 4 gigabytes already.
Yeah, so it's more like 50-50 the size I have. Yes, you're right. And also this gives the advantage. For example, if you don't want to expose all the software we have to your clients for a reason or another, you can also pick whatever you want and create this image file. Any other questions?
I have a slight question. So you worked on last year in the workshop with Safe and setting up EESSI and Safe. Would you feel like this is a good option for that, or because there any internet connection has to be zero trust at least?
Yes. And this solution was how can I explain further? Like we discussed this with Safe. I would have preferred if any colleague of Safe was here to further clarify, but at least they preferred to go with the other option of having their own Stratum 1 server because, as I said, this requires updating the image file over and over, and that's not something easy to go forward with.
Yeah,
But again, if I had the option and any of the Safe colleagues was here, maybe they could have explained more. Yes or no?
maybe you should say what Safe is, and
Yeah, I can say in general. So Safe is University of Bergen's secure data platform. So people that get a VM that has no access to the internet other than some very narrow exceptions for read-only stuff, and for the most part, it only has access to our own repositories. So in the case of this Stratum 1 server, from what I understand, it copies the data and puts it in a location within the firewall where it can be read by the users. So they will point at an internal service rather than this general Stratum setup. But yeah, in terms, I also have another question regarding Stratum 1 that I've asked Richard already, but he didn't have the answer at hand. But I'm wondering if anyone else might have, and it's the IOPS needed for a Stratum 1 server, and if anybody has any ballpark based on how many users or something of how much IOPS is on a Stratum 1 server. Is that something anyone knows?
I would say that depends as well how many proxies you have in front of it and how big they are.
Okay. Do you have any sort of ballpark for a Stratum 1, the public or private?
I don't have a concrete number, but I think the network connection is more important than the disk in the Stratum 1.
Okay. Yeah.
So
best practices, I'm trying to find the link. Maybe that could indirectly help you.
I don't think it's said. I think the best practices only said SSD. It didn't say how many.
Yeah. If you already saw that, then maybe we share the link for others. But yeah, as kind of.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on how many architectures you serve, how many or let's say what kind of users you have, how different they are. I'm not sure. I could imagine that once Stratum 1 serves a request, the data is cached somewhere. So if you access the same, even if you have no proxy, maybe that's fine. Yeah, so it really depends on the workload and the architectures you want to serve.
And the gains you can get, I think, by having lots of IOPS available in a Stratum 1 are also quite limited because of these caching hierarchy. You would really have to stress things quite a lot with cold caches, and only then is the IOPS that the Stratum 1 has really relevant. In realistic scenarios, there's 2-3 levels of caching in between. And whether you run a big Python workload that needs 5,000 small Python files or a GROMACS that needs a GROMACS binary and maybe a library or two, there's a big difference in terms of work.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe more important for a Stratum 1 is making sure that you can grow along with the repository. So I think on disk you now need, is it half a terabyte already? It's probably still less than that for a full copy of softwareeasy.io.
Yeah.
Growing about 1 gigabyte per day. That's the current rate. That may be larger in the future. So at least make sure you have a setup that you can easily grow and just plug in an extra disk and rebalance or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was wondering. Go ahead.
Thomas. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Daniel. You
Okay.
first.
Yeah. No. So we are having an option of a couple of data centers where we can put it that is available to us in NREC generally is the idea. And there is a question of which type of SSDs, if we need NVMEs or if we should settle for slower SSDs, and also the internet connection, which is we can choose between 10 and 100 gigabits shared connection. But yeah.
Again, there I would say 10 gigs is probably enough for most. I mean,
Okay.
you can come up with situations where having more would help, but it's gonna be in the noise in realistic scenarios. Like if a whole cluster has done a reboot and all the caches are empty, and your proxy server has also starting afresh for whatever reason, then the mirror server will really get a hammer in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But that's not a realistic scenario.
Yeah, I think what I would recommend is to not just have one private Stratum 1, but two. Because then if you have the clients that are already prepared for the two, then you can easily take out one of them and replace them with an upgraded version. Right?
Of course.
Everything can still work while you're upgrading. And then all the concerns you have, of course, they're sort of relevant, interesting, but you can just adjust to what you need.
Yeah, I think that's mostly the questions that I had at hand right now. There might be some more next week. We are having a hackathon where we are prototyping this in March.
Yeah, and maybe after the hackathon, you can join the next Easy Happy Hour session, and you can keep us updated what you have done and maybe some numbers you have seen. Yeah.
Yeah, I can also say that the purpose of setting up this directive one is because we've set up this CVMFS driver and operator in our Kubernetes cluster in Rail, for those of you who are familiar with it. And based on the CVMF documentation, essentially, we think we should have a Stratum 1 and not just a squid proxy in front of it. So once it's ready, then we have EESSI and Kubernetes at UID, so that's good.
Yep. Kenneth, you were not there or you were busy the last two sessions. Maybe now we can take advantage of your availability. Would you like to tell us something, what you presented or what has been discussed in FOSDEM?
Oh, sure. There were two presentations at FOSDEM, actually. One by Helena on a status update on EESSI. So assuming that you more or less already know what EESSI is about, and mostly talking about what has changed since the last time it was presented at FOSDEM, which was 2021 or even 22. So at least 4 or 5 years ago. She did a whirlwind tour of what has changed over the last couple of years. So that was interesting. I gave another talk. So Helena's talk was in the HPC dev room. I gave a talk in the software performance dev room, spinning EESSI a bit in different ways related to performance. So not only the performance of the software that you get from EESSI, but also how quick it is to get access to it, how it helps with software startup as well compared to GPFS and Lustre, for example. You get a better experience because of CVMFS. So that was a bit of a different angle, but covering the same topics. Mine was slower pace because I'm not Spanish, but Helena did a great job at the whirlwind update tour of EESSI. And the thing we'll discuss next time, this EESSI command line interface, is actually a result largely from the pre-FOSDEM hackathon we had in Brussels as well. So on Thursday, Friday, before the FOSDEM weekend, a couple of us, including Valentin from the CVMFS team, sat together in a room and discussed things and also did some hands-on work, including on this CLI that I can demo next week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any further questions before we stop the recording? I will stop the recording now.